We'll be recording this meeting so that we have a reference and can come back later to perhaps answer some of the questions which we may not be able to answer today. Marc's on the camera there, and he'll be recording everything. Like you, I certainly do not feel safe in my own home. We all have a story to tell of our horrible experiences, but I only became involved in this due to my car being broken into in the driveway of my home. My neighbour straight across the road, and she's here today, straight across the road from my place, her car was broken into and stolen in her driveway, and she didn't know until the police rocked up at her place at 3:30 in the morning and woke her up and said, "Your car's been stolen." And you know what the feeling's like when that happens. It's just an absolutely horrible feeling. It's happened to me as well, and that was 40 years ago, and I still feel it today. The police are very aware of who most of these people are and can recognise them, but if you do happen to recognise them, give us the information if you don't want to talk to the police. The police can't just arrest them on your hearsay. We have to prove that these culprits actually did do the crime, but you may happen to be a good witness. Talking about the police, I was lucky enough to spend valuable time with Grant Erickson, the police commander, last Monday. Grant also did time at Redfern Police Station, and during the meeting they gave me a lot of information that said that they fully supported us in what we're doing, and we're really grateful for the efforts of as a community. They also said that they had a pretty good idea who was involved in this crime spree, but said that this time last year, there was very little happening in the Goonellabah area, but the crime had escalated mainly in the past 3 months, but did not have an answer for this and why it had happened. They've just received extra funding and extra police in dealing with this crime wave. They also said that their response times now were very good, and if you make a 000 phone call when someone's breaking into your house or car, normally they can respond within first 10 minutes, and will do their utmost to support us. But several people contact me being very negative about the police. Some people feel that it's very macho to be negative towards the police, and I find this somewhat difficult to comprehend, because police experience and see the other side of life that we just don't see. Hence, they learn to deal with every situation, not many of them being the same, and they have to try and negotiate the best outcome they can to remedy that particular situation. There's no textbook that tells them how to deal with all these different situations, and being human beings, sometimes they get it wrong, but with their different experiences, they're trained to handle most situations. As most of you know, I'm also an ex-policeman and was based in Darlinghurst and King's Cross, and then what they now call the block in Redfern. Before many of the occupants were relocated to other areas. I had some very difficult experiences during my time at these situations, because at the time they were crime areas, but I also really pleased to have been transferred to Redfern, because those experiences are experiences that I use every day now in my life in dealing with difficult situations. Many of you have possibly worked in various jobs where some of your colleagues were great to work with, but you may have come across some people who are difficult to work with. There's no different in the police service. Some are good cops and some are not so good. And you've seen over the last week with a policeman who committed murder. Most of the time the police are great and supportive, but as I explained to some of the negative people who blame the police for the crime wave we're currently experiencing, I said, look, if you are at home and someone broke into your house and terrorised your family, who are you going to call? Your best mate, the butcher, the baker, or the police? I think that in every case, you may just call the police. who you've been chastising. Many people blame the magistrates, and in many cases they have done nothing to support us, and I am very privy to this, having been to court with many cases, many thousands of times, dealing in similar situations and what we're talking about. I found some of the magistrates to be fantastic, and some of them weak as water. And again, these people are human beings exactly the same as us. Some do a great job and others don't seem to support our community at all. In these cases, I think we need to make a stand, make representations to the Justice Department and ship them out of town and try a new one who's able to support us, but they also have their hands tied in the legislation that they have to deal with, and also have to make difficult decisions. And today, Kevin's going to have that opportunity to speak to you about legislation, because legislation can be changed, and that's why he's here today, to be able to help us hopefully change some legislation. In extreme cases, police have been able to actually relocate some of these criminals, but it's not an easy fix to do so, and there's many incidents. Since I became involved in this about 3 weeks ago now, several people in the community have come forward to support us in our plight. Now regarding the crime, as you all know, posting pretty heavily in the past few weeks, and people have been posting back, where many of you have seen some of the comments. In the last 3 weeks, I've had over 400 postings of people reaching out, and over 50 people have actually contacted me by phone. Some people are petrified in their own homes and don't leave their homes due to the fact that as soon as they leave, they're broken into. I've had numerous phone calls of people identifying constant areas of crime, and where some of these include Phillip Street, which is up behind Coles. Again, it seems that many of these problems, people are living in this area, and cars are being continually burnt in this area. And I've interviewed many of the residents in this area who have confirmed that what I am saying. It seems that there is a gang of youths living here, and the police are regularly receiving complaints of youths being around on unregistered dirt bikes all hours of the day and night, and young children as young as 8 to 12 running around the streets at night. I've been told there is another gang of youths who dress in black, getting around in groups as large as 20 persons, provoking people in their homes. One young girl that I interviewed was bashed by 3 young girls and a male person just near McDonald's and was hospitalised. When a mother tried to confront these perpetrators, this gang of youths turned up at their home with around 20 of these youths and terrorised them. Only this week, a lady took her dog to Woolworths to do some shopping and left the dog on the lead outside Woolworths. While she was in shopping, 3 youths came along and started kicking hell out of the dog. That's a terrible thing. Only yesterday evening, 3 youths were terrorising people outside of Coles and threatened a young fellow about 20 years of age who decided to confront him by himself and chased him where they ran off with him in tow. I did not hear what happened in the end, but if this is happening in our community, we really need some protection. I've now asked for some of you people to tell us of some of your experiences, and perhaps you have experienced in this crime spree, to give us a general idea of what is happening in the community. Would someone like to start?
I've lived in the area my whole life. I've lost my house to the flood, moved up to Goonellabah. We had a huge spate of crimes between July and November last year. We had about 10 or 12 break-ins over about a month or two just after July. My neighbour got broken into twice, my next door neighbour. We had, my neighbour on the other side had a couple of instances where their camera picked up someone coming into their carport, and trying to get into the car. They saw the camera and the light turn on and they go away. So had all, lots of different examples. I went down to Janelle's office and spoke with Ted. He was amazing, gave me a great, whole heap of things to do. Yeah, he seems like he's got a bit of experience in various different things. But yeah, he was amazing. He sent an email to the police station to petition them to look at this area. I went in a couple of times to the police station as well, and they were really helpful. It's not very, I haven't really walked into the police station many times in my life. The person who was on at the counter, he said, oh, well, actually, I'm going to be on patrol Friday night. We've only got 2 cars in the area, but, I'll talk to the other car as well. We can't really do anything before 9 or 10, it's really busy. At that time, we'd worked out all these things were happening between 2 and 4 a.m. And the cops, this cop that I spoke to, he said, we'll go start some patrols then. Because he said, what have you done? Have you seen your state member? And yep, they sent you an email. And all these things. We've done a couple of things. People had security screens. Not everybody had a camera, but there were some basic things, that we could add. And they did a patrol of our street. I don't know how often or how many they were doing, but I've heard from a few people. They were between 2 and 4 in the morning. They saw a cop car going past slowly with a sideways light. Spotlight on the houses. And since then, and that was like October and November, we're expecting to have a lot of crime over Christmas because of what we just experienced. And we haven't had any break-ins since November. At the time before, while this was all happening, I was speaking to the cops and they said, there's a group of 4 guys, and we know who 3 of them are. And, we've got their fingerprints in this case, but we don't have all of them. But so they were really close. Another one, there was a group of 4 girls, which was unusual. They said it's usually young guys. Both groups are both young kids. Those girls took my next door neighbour's car, and there were like 10 or 15 sets of prints all over the car. So that went away. Then there's another group of 6 young boys, and these 3 groups, over a couple of months, they were charged. And then it stopped. So I don't, maybe they went to the next street, maybe they went somewhere else, maybe they've stopped offending. But without knowing names and that sort of thing, if they really did get charged and come back out, it stopped it for us. So I'd just like to share that positive story.
Thanks very much, mate.
Thank you.
I'm actually just going to say about the youth crime, doesn't matter who they are, and speak to the politicians probably. And we really needed a judge up here, I think, today, because that's where most of the problems are, letting the youth back out on and re-offending and not doing anything. The police do a good job with what they've got, but I just want to say it needs to be a judicial problem where it's looked at, where the youth crime in particular, not only this state, you hear it everywhere now, it's the youth. From, as someone said, from the age of 8 upwards, they've got to do something and not let them back out on the streets. And that's where it's got to happen from. And last I'll say, not just the break and enters and the car stealing and that, but particularly around the Goonellabah shop where that bloke, or someone said where they're up here and threatening people, but the rock throwing and all that and everything else and the car damaging up around here, that's where something's got to be done with the youth, and that's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Oh, good morning. It looks like a really fabulous turnout from all of you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all for coming and supporting Andre and the people that are here for the quest of trying to find some solutions to the problems of the crime that exists around the area. I'll just give you a brief outline. I've been in the police force for over 30 years as a detective sergeant and acting inspector. I've been in many of the squads in the CIB in Sydney and various task force involving everything from murder to child pornography to domestic violences to all aspects, including lots of drug activities. I moved up into this area over the last 15 months because my children lived between Byron Bay, Mullumbimby and Yamba. And they said to me, giving me a really good look at my life and saying, Dad, in your twilight years, you'd like you to be closer to us. And I said, twilight years? I think I'm still growing up. And I've probably failed in that area. However, having been here, in February last year, I'd only come back from a week of moving my belongings up to my house, and I live in, on the 8th of February, my neighbour called me and said, Greg, someone is smashing the windows of your caravan. So 2:15 a.m. in the morning, I put on a pair of jeans, went out with my plastic Aldi torch to go and survey the damage. And sure enough, there was glass all over the roadway. But further down the road in the next street, only some 50 odd metres away, was a loud group of shouting, yelling individuals. And I was shining the torch around. I then immediately called Lismore Police to inform them that there was a rowdy group of some young people and that my caravan had been smashed. The police officer that I spoke to was a young police woman constable, and she could hear the people coming back, and I could, in the background, because they came out of the side street, saw me with my torch flashing looking at the damage, and one of them immediately ran towards me and attacked me. And while he was in that process of coming towards me, I was talking to the police officer, and she said, "Hang on, quick, call 000. That was a dumb constable, that one. However, let's move on. So I looked at the 4 people who were running towards me, 3 males and a female. They started punching, attacking, and I was fighting them off with my torch, my good old Aldi plastic torch. So fortunately, they weren't able to get the better of me. Even for a 56-year-old, I'm not too unfit, and I was able to fend them off. But this confrontation and battering took place over several, actually almost 10 minutes. One of them kept trying to punch me while the other one was attacking me, and I was fighting all 4 of them off. I was able to inflict a really good hit across one of their heads, which they backed that one off. The girl that was there was then punching me in the shoulder and chest and actually stole my mobile phone. And then they both basically pulled away, one of them because they couldn't knock me down, and I was scoring punching hits. I felt that I should have joined my son in his what do you call it, cage fighting situation, but it was quite worrying. I looked at myself and said, I'm going to get killed here. I could see myself dying in this situation, because one of them went away and got a piece of 4x4 timber, came back and attacked me again. I was able to fend him off the whole time while fending the other 2 who were trying to get to me. And in the confrontation, in fact, he actually collected and hit me, but I didn't realise, and I was able to fight them off. One of the offenders that I'd originally been attacked by, he grabbed a piece of broken glass off the roadway and tried to stab me with it by throwing it at me. I was able to avoid that. The other one who went and hit me with the piece of 4x4 timber actually got a bottle and threw it at me, which I was able to avoid. And it was quite intense for about 8 to 9 minutes. Fortunately, I had it all on CCTV, including the sound. The police eventually turned up, which was great. It took them about 25 minutes to come from Ballina and Lismore. They actually spoke to the offenders later that night, and they were eventually arrested. Now, that was in February last year. In the interim, this is the process that takes place. The police arrest them. One of them was given immediate bail. 3 skipped and were finally arrested and then charged, but bail refused. They spent a fair amount of time behind bars with their legal aid solicitors, each represented by an individual legal aid person, trying to get them bail. They eventually succeeded after about 3 months, and they were all on bail and are still on bail to this date. The 3 offenders were actually charged with affray, assault, occasion, actual bodily harm, assault and robbery, malicious damage, and a number of other offences, because as they went up the street, they were kicking the doors of car doors in and breaking windows of other cars. Now, to tell you what's happened with the procedural system is, I was really badly injured. I was hit very badly in my leg. I couldn't walk for about 5 or 6 weeks. It was very difficult in my moving up into my retirement area, and I was able to, I have to say, the police were very, very good. The detectives involved kept me informed of what the situation was, and as the offenders were all eventually, some of them skipping bail, being arrested, given bail again, and they are due to appear at court on the 13th of March. One of the offenders is pleading guilty. The other two haven't entered any pleas at this stage. So what has happened is the Crown prosecutor then contacted me, and I've been in for a number of interviews, and they have representations made by the legal aid solicitors acting for each of them, who then in court on a monthly basis to get them bail on each occasion, while waiting to negotiate a lower charges relevant to each individual. And so what has happened is the Crown has then negotiated, and the assault and robbery charges have suddenly been lowered to a lower charge. I don't agree with any of what they have done, and I certainly hope that as the magistrate or judge, whoever takes their matters, gives them a good sentence. If he doesn't or she doesn't, I intend to make a complaint to the Attorney General in relation to the judiciary, and I see the judiciary has a major problem, I think, dealing with the reality of the legislation that exists. Further to that, just to let you all know, if you are a victim of a crime, you have the ability to make an application to the Victims Commission to receive a financial amount which varies up to $150,000 if you are the victim of a homicide or associated. And on top of that, you're entitled to counselling and financial assistance for installation of security for your home. Now that you be a victim of domestic violence, which is a shocking situation in most of Australia. Now, in my case, I have applied and I have received a financial package, if you like. This eventually will be charged against the individuals, and the government should pursue them for the recovery of that money. Whether they do or not is another story. However, that's where accountability comes into the situation. You have to make people accountable. That's my victim story, right? Just to assist you, when I first moved into Shearman Drive, there's a small park opposite. It was overgrown, and I noticed that almost 2 or 3 nights or afternoons or the morning, a group of up to 10 or 16, 18 odd people from the area, mostly Indigenous, would gather for a drinking session. There'd be booze, bourbon, beer, and then it'd get a little bit rowdy, and then on a couple of occasions I noticed that there was a fire set, and then there was just pretty much antisocial behaviour the whole period of time. So what do you do about that? Well, over my police career, we've looked at things called redesigning the locality to diminish and stop and prevent antisocial behaviour. So I contacted the council as a result of giving them photographs and a very, very lengthy letter of complaint, which I was quite happy to forward off to the local minister for local government, to show that this area needed cleaning up physically. And as a result, the council now mows that park every fortnight. The council also cleans up all the rubbish, and as a result, kids are playing in that park. The drinking bar has stopped, and that doesn't place anymore. Occasionally, someone will turn up and have a few drinks in the local bus stop that is there now. I've been on to council to try and get them to put better lighting in to discourage this, and to see what else can be done to improve. Also, some of the properties that are owned by the Aboriginal Land Council and also by the Housing Commission, and also a lot of privately owned properties that are there, these properties quite often are really neglected and unkept. And if you look at some of them, the rubbish and junk that is there is, how can I say, it's just not an eyesore, it's a health problem. The health problem that exists means that the council is failing to give, if you like, prevention orders or clean-up orders, and as a result, some of my complaints to the council have resulted in a compliance order being issued to one property where the rubbish was 6 metres long by 2 metres high by 3 metres wide of rotting food and garbage and collections. It resulted in the many rivers real estate agency that acts for the land council to come and get 2 skip bins on the final day of the, if you like, the order, because the next day it became an enforcement order. So when you start to look at where you live and what's affecting you and what's around you, you need to understand that you have power to make individuals accountable in the local council, your local government and your national government, and that gives you the ability to make your life better, your environment better, and also make life for me. Anyway, I thank you very much for attending. I thank you for listening to me. I hope that what I've been able to tell you will give you some insight as to the realities of how you can be affected. If you are a victim, then be a victim and use the victim support services that are there. If you're not a victim, then help people who are victims. And if you see domestic violence in any form, please report it. Women, and in many cases men, do not deserve to be the victims of domestic violence. Thank you very much.
Okay. So my car broken into on the 13th of January. The dog woke up. I thought it was a possum. Since then I haven't been able to sleep, even with cameras. I guess I'm just sick of feeling unsafe.
Yeah, I have a few suggestions of my own that I've written down here, and it's to try and stop the violence in the town. Number one, I'd like to see an area close to either Coles or Woolworths manned constantly, and this is probably not possible, by at least 2 police officers, so that if violence is occurring, like the violence we've spoken about today, that the police can assist each other when the violence is occurring. You can't have one policeman there by himself. With regular police presence, I'd anticipate that the police presence will allow the community to be able to at least shop in safety and stop some of the violence happening in the area. And they should be able to do regular patrols of this hotspot area of Phillip Street and surrounds to try and clean up the out-of-control youth in this area. If we can't have this, then I'd suggest that we employ security guards with dogs as their protection, because it seems that this youth hate and are scared of dogs, but it will also help protect these security guards. I'm not too sure how this may be funded, whether it may be by council or the community initiative, but I'd most certainly put my hand up to help fund anything that's going to help protect us. I've been informed by the people in the community near Phillip Street that there are many commission homes in this area, and there is a ruling which is a 3 strikes out ruling. It seems that this has been totally overlooked by the Housing Commission, and if administered properly, may certainly help our cause in relocating some of the problem people, or people bringing in their friends from other areas who are coming to our area to commit these crimes. I'd also like to suggest curfews for these young offenders, as the police have stated that about 5 of the youth committing this crime are currently already on some type of order or bail. But when these offenders are caught, they're not locked up, but taken home to their parents, some of whom have absolutely no control over their children. And I had a phone call during the week from a very distressed mother who was crying on the phone, and she said that 2 of her children, one 12 and the other was 15 years of age, were sneaking out of a night time committing these crimes, only for the police picking them up after they've been stealing cars and breaking into houses. Then they jump straight out the window again, same night doing it all over again. What advice do you give to a mother like this? I really don't know, but I know that I really felt for her. Another mother called me and said that she was being beaten up by her own children. I see the only way to handle this situation is to get the youth off the street and actually lock them up, detain them, even if it's only for 4 hours, but we need to get them off the street somehow. To do this is not an easy fix, as it will need a change of legislation for the Act to be amended, but if it cannot be controlled by the parents, I think in dire, like a change in legislation needs to be done, because these kids are eventually going to be bashed and killed by someone who has no control. Please give us your thoughts.
I just wanted to bring up that ex-MP Thomas George for many years was making representations to the state government to have a police station put up in Goonellabah due to the fact that Goonellabah has grown quite rapidly. But unfortunately those representations by MP Thomas George fell on deaf ears and the state government did nothing about it.
Good morning. As some of you may know, my name's Levi. I'm actually a security guard in the Lismore Northern Rivers region, and I've been asked to come here today to have a quick chat to you about some of the security procedures that you may be able to employ in your area, and obviously how I can assist you there with giving you that information. How I actually ended up here was that there was a social media post put out, and I was tagged in it quite a few times. The real bit that was gut-wrenching was obviously just the number of people that were sharing their experiences on there, and it was obviously evident that there was a problem up here in Goonellabah. Experience is 15 years in the security industry, so I have experience as a security guard, experience as a patrol guardman, I've got experience working with CCTV and alarm installations and servicing, and obviously responding to those alarms when they obviously go off. That includes jumping into a vehicle and going out to a house when there is a duress or otherwise, and providing that assistance on site. A lot of what I'll go through now is just go through a few of those measures that you can look at that don't cost you anything, that you can do at home by yourself. DIY is something that you have been thinking about. Some of them that you do need to speak to another contractor about, electricians, builders, something to that effect, and then a couple that you can obviously speak to a security company about, like myself, and you can ask those questions at the end throughout the process. If you just want to write some notes down about any questions that you've got, I'm happy to sit there at the end and answer any of those questions. And for anything else that you might need a quote for otherwise, I can be around at the end and answer any of those questions for you, however best I can. So the ones that obviously you can do yourself, it's one that's harped on about. Lock your doors. Do that. Get into a routine of knowing your perimeter control is like. Have a look at your door system, see which ones can be locked, see which ones can be secured, and get yourself into a routine of locking those every night. I can't tell you how often I'm doing patrols and I'm checking a site and the door is just completely unlocked. It's a very, very common thing, and something very, very simple that you can do. I know that does get harped on quite a bit, but it's the simplest, quickest, cheapest solution to keeping your perimeter under control at night. The other one is obviously checking and auditing your locks. Go and have a look at your lock system, see which ones aren't working. Again, when doing patrols, I do often pull on a door that is locked. I need to find that it's not engaging, it's not locking or otherwise, so go and have a look as well. That doesn't cost you anything to go and have a quick check, and making sure that everything is fully operational with your perimeter control. The other bit is obviously moving on to making sure that your items are all locked and secured, so that's including vehicles at the front. Again, very common one that's harped on about, but make sure your vehicle is locked. Remove your valuables from your vehicle before you go to bed. If they're sitting there on the driver's seat, people can, obviously a lot of the footage you're seeing is people peering through the windows of those cars while they're parked at the front. They're walking straight in, they're trying to open that vehicle and obviously get to those valuables. So take the valuables off the front seat, take them out of the eyes of the public and go put them away inside of your house. Same thing goes for obviously items that you leave at the front of your house. That's another big one too. I know a lot of people get very complacent. They're leaving motorbikes on the side of their house. Don't do that. motorbikes, machinery, generators, tools, excavators, probably one of the highest stolen items at the moment. We're just really having a real struggle with that at the moment. There are a lot of those items that are just picked out of the front of the house that were either not locked, not under any type of light or otherwise, no CCTV, and unfortunately they're getting taken with pretty serious ease. Products where you can go and speak to a contractor, so not necessarily a security company. We've talked about perimeter control. If you obviously Goonellabah and all the rivers Australia, we're looking at very hot climates. A lot of people are locking their doors at night, but they're locking a screen door with a fly screen. Fly screens don't offer the biggest perimeter control in terms of obviously keeping you secure at night. What you might want to look at that there is looking at items like Cream Safe. I know that's obviously one option. There is other options such as InvisiGuard, and you can speak to contractors locally about that as well. Contractors such as Lucas Fabrications, they obviously do that as well. You can go and speak to them and have a look at that side of things. Another one is obviously for those of you that are going on holidays, you can look at safes as well at home. They're very cheap and affordable through Bunnings. I do highly recommend safes. They are an option that obviously while you're on holidays, you can keep those items inside of your safe while you're away, and they're locked and secured. Same goes for vehicles and alarms. You can go and speak to contractors like Autobahn, and you can put those alarms in your vehicles if that's something of a concern as well. There are still a lot of vehicles that don't have alarms or audible sirens. You could look at those options too. Security companies, where you do need to speak to a security company. Obviously alarms, so how alarms work, they're installed in a home. You have two different types of alarms. You have some which have sensors which pick up movement and temperature control, and then other ones that pick up read switches which are actually on your doors. And when that contact becomes available, obviously the door is open, the alarm goes off. Sensors, if they pick up movement, the alarms go off. Alarms are really more useful for the situation where you go on holidays, to be quite honest. So that's when you leave your home. They are a much more expensive outlay if you're using for perimeter control, because you need to run a wire to every single door and window. That's just me being completely honest about that side of things. They are extraordinarily effective in perimeter control, but they are much more expensive if you're going to use it while you're at home. The obvious reason being is that while you've got sensors inside of your home trying to control that perimeter, you're going to want to get up and walk around in the night, and you're going to set the alarms off. You're going to get a lot of false alarms. Your cat's going to set it off, your dog's going to set it off, toddlers, everyone's going to set it off, and you're going to have a whole heap of sirens in your neighbourhood, and no one's going to appreciate that. That being said, sensors for alarm installations that are cost effective. If you can fit out a house with sensors and you are someone that goes away on holidays quite regularly, there's a few people here that are living a lifestyle of going away for a few months at a time, that's an option. I mean, while you're away, you could have a cost-effective alarm system and it won't break the bank. I mean, you can put in a few sensors that will cover the home should someone enter it while you're away. The alarms are monitored by a 24/7 back-to-base company. And funnily enough, a very local one called Global Alarm Monitoring, based right here in Goonellabah. And when that alarm goes off, they let the security company know, and a patrol vehicle goes out and checks onto the site whilst you're away. So that's one thing for peace of mind for those that go on holidays quite regularly. CCTV systems, obviously they are not monitored, but they do give you the capacity to look at them remotely. I'm happy to answer any questions at the end regarding that. I know there's quite a few that have got burning questions regarding the ones that security companies install and the ones that you can buy at the likes of Bunnings, Aldi, JB Hi-Fi, anything like that. Feel free to ask the questions at the end regarding that. CCTV systems are extremely effective providing evidence to the police and to the rest of the community as to the identities of the individuals. When doing CCTV installs, they can be expensive if they're a big install. Where they're not expensive, where they're quite effective, is the front and the rear, and where obviously you're using on the building. Majority of your residences, you're only going to need 2, maximum 4 cameras, really. You're not going to leave. If you buy a system that's 16 channels, it's got 16 cameras, that's overkill. Like that's just a shopping centre. In terms of CCTV systems, you only really need a couple. If you're thinking about where you might put these cameras, have a think about your property. Dudley Drive, anyone that lives along here, you might be able to consider putting cameras at the rear of the property and the front of the property, because you back onto the reserve there, where a lot of these youth are obviously coming through. They're walking through the bushes, jumping the fence, committing the crime, going back over. You might be able to just reduce it, say 1 or 2 cameras, and keep it as a cost-effective installation. Some of those installations, like I said, are DIY. You know, you've got the likes of Swan, U5, I think someone mentioned on one of those posts as well. There's a wireless option as well. All of those work fine and they can talk remotely to your devices. They're great opportunities to show someone, hey, I do have a picture of the person who jumped into my yard. If you're going to pick a camera, pick one with a minimum of full HD. And again, I'll probably do a little brief on some notes to give you so that you can shop around, you can have a look. You can speak to a security company as well if you'd like to, not just my own, but other ones as well locally, like APS, Automatic Protection Systems. And you can look at, you know, the minimum full HD 1080p pixels, which just means it's a sharp, clear enough quality that people are going to be able to recognise someone in that image. Something north of that, even better. You know, you can go up to 4K at the moment, and those are nice, clear, crisp images, and it's going to show exactly what the person looks like. With regards to patrols, I did get quite a few questions regarding patrols in an area. That is expensive. And it's not, again, not just being fully transparent. Patrols are expensive. You're covering someone's wages for a couple of hours a night doing patrols in an area, 365 nights a year. That adds up to quite a bill very, very quickly. With respect to that, I don't see them being super effective in a lot of the areas, to be quite honest. And again, Dudley Drive, a perfect example. You'll notice that where the individuals are coming from, through the bushland, they're not going to see the road where the car is driving along. It's just no sign of any deterrent at all. So that's just, it's not feasible. One thing that might be an option that's a cost-effective option is a Juris app. So some of you might be familiar with the Juris button. You reach under the counter at a store or convenience store or otherwise where you're working, you hit that button and a security company is called. It's a 24/7 option. Best thing about that app, it's cheap. You're looking at a small monthly subscription. You could press that button in the event that there's something serious that's happening. It's usually on your phone, and you only pay for the time that someone needs to come out. That is one option that I would put out there as a very, very cost-effective, affordable option to assist in providing security for residences. You're not talking about a giant alarm fit out for your house, which is fine and very, very effective. You are looking at just an app on your phone. You can just hit that button in the event that there is a break-in there or otherwise a trespass, something of concern, and a security company will come out there with a patrol vehicle. And you just pay the fee for that one, put that call out. I'll go through those fees afterwards. If anyone does have any interest in that type of service, you can touch base with me afterwards. I'll do some Q&A after this. Then after that, I'll be hanging around after this meeting. And if anyone wants to come and approach me, give me the details. I'll give you some information about that, what those costs look like, and hopefully that will give you some peace of mind. Last bit I would touch on is dogs. Can't recommend them enough. If you have been thinking about getting a canine companion for some time, let this be the thing that pushes that decision across the edge. I think that canines are just the best security ever. I can't recommend them enough. The thing you've got to remember about canines is they've got that sense of smell, they've got that sense of hearing, they've got that sense of sight, and they have this one other beautiful sixth sense where they just bark at everything, including that, the pizza guy delivering in pizza, the mailman, random family members, so on and so forth. If you were thinking about getting a canine, and you're in this situation now, that's a huge positive having them in your life.
Is there something you can do for people who, you know, just go and chuck a steak over for the dog?
Oh, as in like a training-wise or otherwise? Yeah, look, that's a really interesting question. Funnily enough, one that I have experienced before. So you're talking about someone that does throw food over and is obviously contaminated or otherwise. Yeah. Very sad circumstance. That actually does come down to training. I know, obviously harp back to step one. That does come down to training your dog. Click commands, very simple to teach. I actually learnt mine from Lismore Vet Clinic. That's when obviously when you're feeding your dog, before they eat. Yeah. So if you throw the steak over, they just sit there and they look at it. Yeah, they wait. My dog just sits there and wait. I've got a white Marana. It sits there for like 20 minutes sometimes because I've forgotten, and I'm not a bad person, I just forgot. I had a phone call during that meeting, I came back and I went, and then away we go. Hello, down the back.
Yeah, mate, I think you just created a bigger problem than we've got. Everybody here gets a dog, as you know, once one dog barks, sets the other so that's not really the answer, although I agree with you 100% that a dog best 24-hour day protection. But a lot of people don't know how to handle dogs or bring them up properly.
That is correct.
The whole problem is, the problem with the cameras is a total waste of time. Because those kids, the police know who they are. The problem lies, and I'm sorry Kevin and Janelle, with you two. You need to change the law. You need to get us out of the United Nations so children under 14 can be charged. You need to bring a law in that the parents are responsible and make nothing until you two do your jobs properly.
I'll be speaking if you're able to
Nothing's changing.
Yeah, we'll just keep it on the, and by the way, your opinion is 100% correct and you're right. I mean, when dogs do bark, the whole neighbourhood goes off. That being said, better than someone stepping on your property while, you know, those dogs are barking. Let's put up with that as opposed to someone coming through our front door. Next, Lev.
We've had 3 dogs.
Neighbourhood goes off. That being said, better than someone stepping on your property while, you know, those dogs are barking. Let's put up with that as opposed to someone coming through our front door. Next, Lev.
We've had 3 dogs.
Neighbourhood goes off. That being said, better than someone stepping on your property while, you know, those dogs are barking. Let's put up with that as opposed to someone coming through our front door. Next, Lev.
We've had 3 dogs. We trained all our dogs not to bark unless they really had to. So if our dog barked, you're in trouble. So you can train them not to bark.
Yeah, very good point too. You absolutely can train dogs to only bark when they are strangers. A lot of that just comes onto one-on-one time. Some of them actually just pick it up. I've actually got a little bit of experience with training dogs. Some of them just pick it up naturally, believe it or not. You know, they spend a lot of times around family and friends, and all of a sudden they're not barking. Then when they're coming down the driveway, the stranger does show up, and then lo and behold, they're going off dinner. And that's a good thing. Yeah, it just does limit how many opportunities to have the whole neighbourhood barking, doesn't it? Any other questions at all? Has anyone got any questions about the CCTV systems that you buy at Bunnings or anything like that? That's one question I do get asked a lot.
Yeah, because I've had a couple of cars on separate occasions, a couple of weeks apart, vandalised at the front of my home. The police wouldn't attend, by the way, because I didn't have CCTV recording of it, so they didn't even come out, and they would have been able to get fingerprints because not only from the car, but these people turn the sensor around, face up the eave, so that the light wouldn't come on. But I looked up the reviews on all of those ones that you can buy on the counter, and every single brand basically said that they only really switched on after the people had left. So, you know, you had a recording to show your vandalised car, but not the people doing it. So I've looked at, and it's more expensive, but it's worth it, and I will do it. The ones with the hard drive.
Yeah. I'll touch on 2 points there. So, point brought up about CCTV cameras being turned around physically, obviously on residences and commercial properties, and then obviously the other one about CCTVs in terms of their effectiveness for the residential cameras that you can buy, the cheap ones, and how quickly they are to respond and obviously pop up and start recording. So cameras installing them DIY, if you are going to do them yourself, which a lot of them are designed to do, from Bunnings, JB Hi-Fi and the likes, just keep in mind a couple of really key points. They're out of arm's reach when you do put them up. So you're up on a ladder to go and adjust them. That is rule 101 with installing CCTV systems. You do need to put them up there much higher. The only time when you can actually put them down lower is when they're what they call a dome style. A dome style looks like a little mushroom. It's got a little ring around it and a nice clear bowl over the top. The reason why is you need a tool to adjust those. You could cover them with something, whether it's a piece of fabric, spray can, that's something that has happened before. But a lot of the times before they get to that one at eye height, just taken the clearest picture in the world, might as well be their high school portrait. The other one is the hard topic to touch on. CCTV systems, cheaper versus more expensive. Yes, obviously, the more expensive is usually the better. However, that being said, there are more expensive brands, commercial brands, that have been making residential options. Those residential options have been a lot more affordable. And in addition to that, yes, you can get someone, a family member or yourselves, to install those ones with fair ease, not something too crazy. Brands like Hikvision, or Hikvision, however you want to pronounce it, that is a brand that offers domestic level cameras, but they are a professional commercial grade company. So it's their software that obviously allows them to do what they need to do. Their nighttime quality will be of a very, very good standard, and the speed in which they start recording is a lot higher as well. It comes down to the software. You will find some, the camera system that you're talking about going back to a hard drive, that's one of those brands. So when they go to a hard drive, it's direct, it records immediately. You will find some of the other brands that work just on wireless. They might just miss the first 1 or 2 seconds after the sensor goes off before they start recording. They start transmitting out to a cloud storage where you can obviously view them later. So yeah, probably look at one of your mainstream brands. Hikvision, Dahua, that's another big one. Anwar, they make another domestic camera as well. And these are systems that you can obviously go to Bunnings and the likes and purchase those. The more expensive ones are done by security companies. I can give you an idea of what those sort of ballpark figures are if you want to come see me afterwards. I'm not really here to sell that today, to be quite honest. If you've just got questions about that, you can come and speak to me about what those costs look like for a lot of properties, and in addition to that, you know, why someone would spend more and go for that more commercial, professional level in a lot of situations. Are there any other questions? Big Rob?
Just a suggestion, with the experience in security, you might want to touch on lighting and sensor lighting as the cheapest and best deterrent.
Great point. That's why Rob's here.
We're going to ask Janelle Saffin to have a word to you as well now. And there we go. Put your hands together for Janelle.
Thank you, Andre, and thank you for pulling this meeting together and for everybody coming out today. And the first thing I want to say is that we all have the right to feel safe in our house. And just listening to Andre and then Greg's account of what happened, and then Alana, wasn't it? Yeah. And I mean, I think we all felt your fear. It was palpable. And anything I can do to help, that I commit to do, and I'll continue to do it. There's no easy answers. As Andre's outlined, there's quite a few things that we can do. And I just want to say something about the police. As a state member, I do stay in touch with the local police, and I talk with them all the time about what's happening. I'm committee, I'm on it, local government's on it, and we meet and we discuss these issues, so we get to get a fair bit of information about what's happening. And it just seems like there has been this real spike lately in Goonellabah in particular. Sometimes it's other areas, and when it's jumped on, it just goes away after a while. And also some of the things that you said, Andre, about patrolling up at the various supermarket places and that. I know that would be council, it would be a terrible impost on council to do it, but I know people want rangers and things like that, so we can talk about whether we can get some more money for that if it's not the police. Just one thing about the police, just about 2 years ago, they needed 1,500 police to come into the academy, and they only got about 50, and recently the government is now paying the police to go to the academy. It's not the full rate, it's just under the junior constable rate, and it's gone up to over 700 because there is a commitment to have some more police, but we haven't been able to get them over a long period of time. And also on the issue of if we left the UN, we'd be able to resolve it. All of us are there voluntary at the UN, and the age of criminal responsibility is 10, it's not 14. So it's actually 10 in New South Wales, not 14, just to comment back. And there is a debate in Australia. A lot of people want to raise it. We're all being lobbied about that. Some have raised it to 12 in jurisdictions, but everybody's talking about it. We're being lobbied as well, and particularly by our churches, to raise it, but it is 10 in New South Wales. So, you know, at 10, some of those kids who get charged still have baby teeth. They mightn't have done baby teeth things, but they've got baby teeth, so they're quite young. And just a couple of other things. I heard what you said about the audio, and I'll follow that up. Okay, I noted what you said there. And dogs, I know you say you don't want all the dogs barking, but dogs work. I've had it work for me with the dogs, but you know, Rottweilers, so they're pretty ferocious, 3 of them when they bark. Someone's trying to get in. So they do really work, but you do have to train them well so that they're not, you know, barking at absolutely, you know, everything, including the possums on the roof that wake you up at night. And just one of the things I would say is what Andre did with the police, he's now in close contact with them. That works. We have to keep doing that and make sure that we do. But I do take it seriously. I do get people come to my office. I deal with it all the time. Respond to people. I heard what you said about Goonellabah Police Station. I heard what Andre said about Neighbourhood Watch. I'll do anything I can to support you. I do say to people, ring Crime Stoppers if you see something. And people say to me, what does that do? And I say, it gets reported straight back to our police station within... What's that?
Yeah, they don't.
No, but it's there. We get the figures. We can question it when we're at the crime committee. We see the figures, all of that. So please, you know, do that. I heard what the lady over there said about Goonellabah and policing as well. And just one thing, Greg, your account that you gave was quite harrowing. And the other thing is, at the moment, there's people looking at Justice Reinvest. It's a scheme that's used in New South Wales and other places in Australia because, yep, we can put them in, lock them up, they come out, same things will happen. And some of the things that I'm with police on, and at the high level too, is trying to stop that cycle of recidivism because A, that gives us good citizens, B, it lessens the risk to us and our fears. So that's one thing we're in the conversation with at the moment about the Justice Reinvest for here. And Lismore City Council some years ago did quite a good report on that. So we'll resurrect it and we'll have those conversations. Thank you.
Next up, I'd like to call Kevin Hogan. Could you put your hands together?
Well, thanks, Andre. Yeah, well, thank you for coming and thank you for organising, Andre, and your group. And good to see you, Janelle. The stories being told were, as has been said, harrowing. Greg, yours especially. I mean, while yours was more extreme than most, it's not okay, and we all acknowledge that. Look, for me, the reasons behind the kids who are doing this are complex, but the solutions are actually quite simple.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have this issue in Goonellabah right now, we have this issue in Corrico right now, we have this issue in parts of Casino right now. Now, the police, as we all know, the police, this is not hundreds of kids running around doing this, this is a very small percentage of our community who are doing this, and the police generally know exactly who they are. But I think we've got to the stage where as a community we have to deal with them very differently. And that's not to say that their problems aren't complex, as we don't want recidivism, I don't know how to say that word, recidivism, repeating offences. I mean, we don't want that. The initial thing that has to happen, because you are not safe in your house and you do not feel safe in your community, they have to be taken off the streets. That's it. Right now, the legislation does not support our police to do that. Now that's not pointing the back. This is a state government issue. Now having said that, I'm not pointing the finger at Janelle and her government. This has been ongoing for a while. So my colleagues were in power for 9 or 10 years before this. But I think we've got to the stage it has to change. So how does it work? You know this, so you can have as a young, and it can be up to 21 actually, it's more under 18, but you can sort of lag on to under 21. You can be under, let's say 18 then, that you can be breaking and entering, not as severe as yours, Greg, that's why they were arrested and charged straight away, but you can be breaking into people's houses, causing quite a lot of distress and anxiety and damaging equipment and costing people a lot of money. You can have up to, I think it's 5 warnings and then 3 cautions. So this is up to 8 times when you're caught, that you're caught before you're charged. Now, that is not okay. Okay. Now, when you then, and then these kids again. Now that's probably now. That might be okay for, none of us were perfect when we were teenagers, right? Now that is probably okay for, to put in, inverted commas, a normal teenager who's just been a bit naughty. But these kids who are doing this are so traumatised, they're from such traumatic families, there's so much, as I said, they're taken home. Home isn't safe for a lot of these kids. And they're then running out the back door, right? As people said, you can't take these, I think there was a comment that, when you took their parents, in most cases are dysfunctional, right? So that's not a solution either. But the problem is, I think we're treating an excuse upon with kids' gloves. We're trying to treat them normally, as if they're from a normal family, and things that, we'll get okay if we just give them another break. It's not gonna. So we have to change that. They have to be taken off the streets as soon as we can get them off the streets. It's better I think for them, and I think it's obviously better for our community. Now, I'm not going to go into today, and Janelle just mentioned the state government program, which is a good program. I've come across programs that are good programs to work with kids like that. And there's some good work and good intention from some groups around the community to do that. So that's another story. But right now, in Goonellabah, in Corrigai and in Casino, there are kids on the street that had to be taken off, and they should be taken off today. And that's not, as has been mentioned, the police's fault. That is us as legislators' fault. And that, we just need to admit that, and for their benefit, and for their benefit and for our benefit, that needs to happen. I also think, and again, it's more of a government thing than anything else, I think sometimes the judiciary have to step up a bit too. Because it's nice, you always want to feel as though you're giving someone a break, right? So the judiciary, I think, so let's take the case where there's the 3 warnings or the 5 cautions or however that works, then they get charged, and then they go into court, and they go, and they've got all the legal aid advice, this and that as well, and the magistrates, we'll give them a break. You know that happens. When they get charged, they're not going to, there's nothing severe happening to them straight away. So that, that can happen multiple times. Now, what is the thing that we are teaching those young people? Straight away, we're teaching there is no responsibility for your actions. Okay? We've just told them for the amount of crimes they've committed, for the fact that nothing really bad has happened to them, that there is no responsibility for the crimes they are committing. We are doing them a huge disservice. We are not teaching them anything through our judiciary system and our policing to tell them what you're doing is not okay. They're treated as a joke because it is. Okay, so we need to look much more, I think, bluntly at that as well with our judiciary. And so it's fine for a magistrate and judge to say that, but if they were the ones who felt in danger of their life, if they were in felt that, they might feel a little bit differently about this. So you are feeling like that. So the comment was made, it's right. This is not the police, I don't think this is primarily a police issue. I mean, they're the front line. This is a issue for Janelle as a state legislator, myself as federal legislator. I haven't said that it is mainly state, it is mainly state. But, we've got to step up and say, look, these kids, if we don't teach them responsibility, this is not bad. When you say, lock them up, this isn't, I don't mean that to sound harsh, right? I'm actually saying taking them off the street is doing them a favour. That's how they have to look at it. That's how the police need to look at it. That's how the judiciary needs to look at it. And that's we as politicians need to look at it. We are doing them a favour if they're 16 and in a very dysfunctional family who have no lessons in life. Often these families, as being said to, they're mainly young men. And when you look at the statistics, they're mainly young men without fathers in the family, but we won't go into that today either. But the stats here, they do not have good role models. With the way we're treating them through the judiciary and the police, we are teaching them nothing. And that's what needs to change. And that's what we as legislators need. But happy to leave it.
Can I just add that under the Parental Responsibility Act, police can actually take children off the streets, but they have to have somewhere to take them to. And if they think the child's in danger or a crime's about to be committed, so that's what, when you talk about, that's what we need to look at.
Well, yeah, but we know practically that's not happening.
Community service.
Question, sorry, for you guys. We were talking about accountability, and you say you've got to do something. What steps are you going to do?
Well,
because you talk about we're going to, we should.
Well, I think, and again, I'm saying this, I maybe should have chatted to Janelle before, but I think the state government needs to change the legislation.
So
the wording of the legislation, if you read it, talks about warnings and cautions. That's got to change.
Yeah. But how can you, Janelle, expedite that process?
Simon,
Monday. Yeah.
Simon, yes, on Tuesday, look, I actually have just been texting people while I've been sitting here in government saying what's going on in the meeting, okay? And I will have that conversation with the Police Minister, with the Attorney General, with the Minister for Youth, Youth Justice, etc., and talk about this issue, which I do anyway, okay? And I'll just continue to work and support and report back as I do.
There's a few people who'd like to ask you a few questions. There's one gentleman over here.
I can understand you're talking about legislation and kids are coming from bad homes. I totally get that. Kids are bored. There's nothing for them to do here. You know, if they've got nothing to do, they're going to get into trouble, aren't they? And that's what they're doing. Cost of sport has gone through the roof. I think we need to look at other things apart from kids' upbringings. There's a lot more to it.
Look, I used to be bored. We were all bored as kids. Kids went all the time about being bored. This is beyond boredom. This is about huge dysfunctionality in families, and kids are not being taught responsibility.
The third thing, I've got a nephew who works in the jail system, and apparently the only time, normally boys, the kids are scared is when they go to big jail because of the obvious sexual relationships. And the other thing I want to bring up, or two things. One, when you say about the two patrols of police getting around, the young ones have got all mobile phones and everything. They know what's going on before the police even turn up, so they're all gone before the police turn up. And the last thing I want to say is what's happening in America. The judicial system in America is starting to make the parents responsible for the kids' action and locking the parents up at the kids'
Hello. So I'm replying to Kevin. I am a mother that my young son I've chased around physically for the last 18 months. He's broke places. I've rung the police. I've told them about the crimes that he's done. I've tried to ring Janelle Saffin back in November, left a message with Ted. So it's not just the dysfunctionality of the families. The police, it is at their discretion to charge these children. They pick and choose on what charges they want to charge them. Curfews, they do not come around and make sure the child is at home. There are parents that are trying to stop their kids. Not all parents are letting their kids do this. So, you know, it's sort of like a community effort that needs to be made instead out of like picking and pointing and just blaming it. Do you know what I mean? Because I actually was frustrated when I heard that comment. The crimes that my son has done, like breaking into shops and stuff, when the police have refused to charge him, I've actually marched him into the shop. Yeah. Like, I don't take it lightly. What else next? 18 months I've chased this child around for. Not once has he got charged. You know, and it actually is, I think, 2 cautions and then 3 warnings. And if they say it's the age of 10, my son's now 14. So, you know, like, it is a bit tiring, you know. Not every mother is strong-minded or strong-willed to be constant. My son's lucky to have a mother like me. Other mothers just give up and fold, and that's it. You know, it's not just the household. So I would like to make that clear. Thank you.
Can I say thank you? You're a good mother. Good on you. I'd like to say thank you to Googs around the corner. I'm here today, my name's Jenny Smith. I'm a community person, I'm a traditional owner. I'm here as a mum, an auntie, a cousin, a sister, a community member. What I'd like to bring up is that we're talking about all these interventions and everyone's saying put them in jail, put them in jail. I know from personal fact jail does not work for our young men. What we do need is we need to take off the softy approach. We need hard love. These young people, and it's not just black fellas, it's white fellas too, because I've picked up a lot of white kids. Okay, so what we need is hard love. We need a place out of town that has no electricity, a working bloody farm. They need to go back and learn and respect. They need to know what it was like when we grew up. We had to earn our way. This generation now, black, white, brindle, come from the gimme tribe. Give me this, give me that. Oh, you know, it's too hard. I wouldn't know what it's like to have one TV now. But I think what we need to do as a collective is we need to work together to say no to this. Not blame all the parents, because a lot of these kids are in out-of-home care systems as well. Not one of those legal guardians are here. That's a state ward, that's a state issue. This matter needs to be taken bigger than this. But we need to also remember too, yes, they are children, but they do need to have proper role models around them. Going to jail does not answer it. I've had kids go to jail, come out the biggest drug addicts on the planet. Because if you want to get drugs, go to jail. You want to get abused, you want to know how to stab somebody, go to jail. It doesn't work. We need hard love, we need a place where they can go, where they're isolated, where they can't come back into town, and it has to be a working farm where they learn how to do fencing, how to bloody milk a cow, how to dig up, the ground. That's what we're going to do, that's what we need. The other thing I want to say, as an Aboriginal woman, I'm on the back end of this as well, because now, well, it's happened all my life basically, but even more so now, when I go into Coles, I get extra attention, to the point I went up to one lad, because he kept following me around, and I said, mate, if you're really that interested here, here's my shopping list, there's a trolley, I'll wait for you at the checkout counter, because that way you can do it too. So there's also that, we need to not make this a race thing, it is a community thing, it takes a community as a child, black, white or brindle, we're all in this together. Thank you.
Thank you. I agree with you too about jail, and I agree with you the same as juvenile detention centres do not work. It's just almost like a training ground, right?
It's a badge
so I get that, but I take your point and thank you for your point, because again, it's about getting, for their benefit, getting them off the street, right? And getting them somewhere where they can be, made better or taught some responsibility.
Jenny, can I just comment back? Jenny, thank you for saying all of that, because it's true. And when I talk about the name of a scheme, it's really like Justice Reinvest or whatever. It's to do exactly what you're talking about, because some kids who go to jail, they don't even see that as punishment. So, we're saying go to punish, but they just don't get that's punishment. We've got to do other things too. Punish, but other things. So, and you're right, it is a community. We've got to do it together.
Thank you, Janelle. Sorry everyone. My name's Bradley Walker, and I'm a local Bunjalung man around here.
Come up here, Bradley. Come up here so it won't echo, okay?
Yes.
Yeah, otherwise you echo there. Come in here, okay?
Thank you. My name is Bradley Walker. I'm a community leader and the CEO of the Bank Wasena Indigenous Corporation. I'm from this community. I used to do break-and-enters up here. I used to do break-and-enters up in this community. I used to steal cars up in this community. I know what it's like. I know what it's like. And to see all the community members here, it really touches me. I did a lot of drugs and alcohol in a lot of these houses. 7-8 years ago, I used to do needles. I used to do ice. Up in my system, I was that scared of ice. I used to give my fellow nephews or nieces to stick the ice in my arm. I used to turn around like this, and I say, blow on my arm, blow on it. That way I couldn't feel the needle going in. I'll be up all hours of night. 3, 4 days, 4 nights up in the community. I couldn't sleep. That's drugs and alcohol had me in my community. There was a community youth centre growing up called the Magpie Centre. It was a place in Sherman Drive, right next to the park that you was talking about. Right in the park basketball court. I've been through that system, the Magpie Centre. Why do we call it the Magpie Centre? Because a magpie is black and white. So it doesn't matter what colour you are. If you're from community, you're going to get the help that you need. And a lot of us that's been through the Magpie Centre, some of us are teachers now. Me, myself, been through it. Some of my sisters are working in our local jargons. Another sister is working in one of the schools in Casino. So this is what's needed in community, is a place where we can hang out, the youth can hang out and call them. So we need more leaders in the community like myself. That all happened about 8 years ago. I changed my life around. I'm a leader in my community. I've been advocating a long time.
Get to the point, mate. We've got a...
Janelle, it's a great story, brother. You need to listen to this too. I've been there, working closely with these two. They know about the Magpie Centre, they're working closely with me too, about ways that we can help our youth. I stole cars around here, and now I'm a leader in my community and advocating very strong. Like you said, yes, they are bored. I was bored, that's why I was doing it. But if we can advocate for a place where they can come every day and gain their respect and make leaders of them, we're talking about jails and all of that, that didn't help me. That didn't help me, jail. I advocate very strong against that. The Magpie Centre advocates for reconciliation. Reconciliation and closing the gap. And one of the main priorities is closing the gap for deaths in custody. Our young men are taking their own lives in custody. We have got the biggest incarceration of Indigenous men in our correctional facility. They are hanging themselves in there. No, I don't want them in there. We need to make leaders of our youth. Show them on our signs when we come into Lismore. What does it say? Lismore, the heart of the northern rivers. And what is on the Lismore? A love heart. So let's start putting the love back into our communities and start giving these youth, showing them a bit of love. Don't be frightened to go up, down and have a yarn. That's all they're looking for, is a bit of love. And we are the heart of the northern rivers. So let's put the love back in our community. Thank you.
But what they used to do with the children of Redfern, Leichhardt, some of those areas, was take them away for the weekend. And I don't know if they still do it. They used to take them to a place called Camp Mackay. But anyway, just getting back to what I was saying, next thing I got this thing in my pigeonhole saying this weekend you're driving the bus up to Camp. I thought, geez, the last thing I really wanted to do. But anyway, I jumped in the bus and off we went. We filled 2 big double-decker buses up with kids. And off we went up to Camp Mackay. I'd never been there before. There was actually a camp for kids. And what happened was that the kids had no respect for the police whatsoever. But over that weekend we did different things with the kids. We played guitar with them, we had barbecues with them, we did different sports, we even had wrestling and boxing and stuff like that. They had the opportunity to belt us all up. I love that bit. So anyway, we did Kamakai again, and we found that the kids were starting to get respect for us. We're doing all these things. It's a great opportunity if we're able to do this with what, and I think we did touch on something similar to this earlier on, giving kids something to do.
Good day, my name's Marc. I won't take up too much time here. Just before Christmas, someone came into our house in the middle of the night, ran into our dog and they ended up leaving. We didn't find out till the next morning. So I know what it feels like to not feel safe in your home. And I know what it feels like to not be able to go to bed without wondering if someone's going to get into your house. Which is unacceptable in this community, to have people, mothers and kids and elderly people feel like that. So I'm interested in things that you can do yourself to take matters into your own hands. All this stuff about rehabilitating kids and programs and that is a long-term solution. But in the short term, no one's coming to help and take things into your own hands, right? And by that I mean we're not confronting people here. I've got a 6-foot gate all around my house that wasn't locked. My bathroom window wasn't locked, and that's how they got in. Okay, so if I locked those things, I probably wouldn't be here. Okay, so to that end, there is an app you can get on your phone. It's called WeWatch. It is made by a Queensland police officer and ex-army guy. It goes on your phone. Basically, if you catch something on your security camera, or your dog's going off, or you catch someone trying to get into your vehicle, you can create an incident on the app. After you've contacted the police, obviously, let them know they need all the information they can get when these things happen. If you create an incident on the app, every app user within 1 kilometre of your house will get a notification that you've just busted people trying to get into your property, which lets them not be caught off guard in the middle of the night while they're asleep. They get a notification that wakes them up, and they can make sure that they're not going to be a victim. Rightio. It's called WeWatch. There's a few of these around. You probably remember them from COVID days. If you scan it on your phone, it'll come up with an install link there. If you're not that tech savvy and you want to know about it, you can come see me, and we'll go from there. But you need to send a message that you're willing to protect yourself as well, and that you're not going to lay in bed scared and be a victim. Rightio. So I think that's going to be useful. It's free, it's in development, they're actively working on improvements. So does anyone have it? Has anyone got the app? Oh, awesome. And it's been effective. It's woken me up twice, for instance, within 1 kilometre of me, so I'm able to get up and just make sure my house is secure and that, okay?
America has the same thing. I've got a sister who lives in Washington DC, and they have exactly the same thing.
That's correct, yeah. So I went through a whole heap of apps to sort of test them out, and this was the one that's got active development, so they're working on it right now, but it is functional at the moment.
Gentleman there want to just
Well,
go
I
on
was
to.
just checking which one, because there's 4 different ones, but
Yeah, so
told me it's the orange one.
yeah, it is, yeah. So it's got an orange logo with like an eye called WeWatch, okay? Again, if you're not sure, come see me.
Sorry, I just have to say something about that, because I don't know if you're aware, if you publish a video that identifies a minor knowing that they may get charged with an offence, that you can be charged with an offence for publishing material that identifies a minor. So it's very dangerous, so you need to blur the faces out, and believe me, the police and this will have charged people with that in the past.
Well, on this, in this particular case, you're loading anything. It's just a notification for residents that you've witnessed an incident. And the more people that utilise that, obviously, the more effective it is. And it is an effective deterrent amongst kids who are aware that an app like this might exist. And if they know that they come up your street, there's potentially 100 people watching, that's a good deterrent just to keep them out of your area. So you can take that and just build your own community in your street, get to know your neighbours, and lock up. Yeah. Thanks for that.
Speaking as an aged person, maybe a lot of you are like me, living on my own in the area, feeling scared, but being locked and bolted in as I am. But also, a lot of us are at that age where we're thinking of going into a retirement village. But I know that 2 of the retirement villages in the area have been broken into as well. So, you know, it's a bit scary. The other thing regarding helping those children who are getting into trouble. Once upon a time, they used to send them out to farms, like in the middle of Australia, where they worked on cattle properties, and they learned to become jackaroos and become worthwhile citizens and learn respect as well. But also, a big thank you to all of you guys for coming and preparing this, and that's just on behalf of an aged person who's worried. Thank you.
I'd just like to thank Andre very much for organising this, and I know he's put a lot of work into it and for everybody else. And I just want to say, from our experience from 12 to 18 months ago in our area, Janelle and Kevin know about our situation, and I'm not going to highlight that. All I'm going to say is the quickest response is 000 or Crime Stoppers. Bringing Crime Stoppers, it can't be if the crime is for you, it's got to be if you see it happening somewhere else. From our experience, that will get them there quicker. Yep. And unfortunately, it is the legislation, because with the incidents that happened with us, we were told by the police that kept coming around, oh, they'll go and see the sergeant 3 times, oh, you might go to court, you might get compensated. Nothing happened, so we just didn't continue with it, but our situation changed anyway with the circumstances. Thank you.
Talked about complacency about car keys and things. One thing I've noticed is that car keys in your household should be somewhere safe, somewhere maybe in a refrigerator is an idea. Put a card, something like that, because the way car theft happens around your home is that they look for car keys. And that's the first thing they go, because they want to get out of the place very quickly. So if someone's going to delay them, they won't bother. So that's just a bit of a point of view for home security.
That's a really great point. Probably something I didn't point out earlier on, but I used to leave my keys on the kitchen table. Now they live beside my bed. And I think that's a pretty good spot, because they've got to get pretty close to you before they can steal your car keys. But that's exactly what they're doing. They're grabbing your car keys and they're actually getting into the house while people are asleep. They are getting into your house and they're stealing those car keys, and then they're stealing your car. But unfortunately, rather than just stealing the car, they're burning them. And that's where a lot of people can't afford, comprehensive insurance. So it's costing the community a lot of money for that. So it's a great. Oh, and the other thing I was going to say to you, don't leave the keys in your glove box or in the console. As soon as they break into your car, and they're breaking into the cars with jimmy bars, actually breaking into cars with jimmy bars. So you think you've got your car locked. It doesn't always work, but a lot of people are leaving their cars in the consoles or the glove box. They're straight in there, your car's gone. Yeah, so look, I'm going to finish up the meeting unless there's anybody else here wants anything to say. Okay, I'm going to finish up the meeting and just say, look, thank you again very, very much for attending the meeting today, and hopefully we can all work together as a community to stop what's happening at the moment.